Hey, so happy Halloween if you celebrate. Every year, if you're new here, I like to make a video, a little Halloween episode video where I talk about some stuff I've been enjoying for the Halloween or like fall, autumn season, just to get me in the mood. I always have a bunch of stuff to talk about because I kind of like from October 1st make it my mission to consume as much Halloween spooky, like, trees with dead leaves type stuff. So the first thing I'll start off with this year that I've been enjoying, it's kind of the obvious one, Alan Wake 2. No spoilers or anything, and I do plan on doing like a full dedicated video for this. But Alan Wake 2 is really good. If you saw my before you buy video I did on Game Ranks, I absolutely gushed about the game because it's a really good survival horror game. And that's, in my opinion, I mean, I might be biased, but it's like just what the doctor ordered. It's tense, it can be challenging, it can kind of fluster you, and it also just has such a good sense of atmosphere, sense of place, vibe. I know some of us overuse the word, but it really has it, from the art direction to the way the environments look. Absolutely incredible. And I think the way it's divided between two characters, both Saga Anderson and Alan Wake, is pretty brilliant because you kind of get the best of both worlds for horror. You have Saga Anderson kind of doing the Alan Wake 1 thing. She's in the Pacific Northwest. She's in the woods, and it's incredible. I always talk about in games like video game woods and how hard it is to nail that. I think Alan Wake really nails it. The woods, leaves fall, you hear the wind through the trees, you see the branches move, but there's like good atmospheric effects, there's like volumetric fog and all that good lighting, the moonlight coming through the trees, all that stuff to really nail that atmosphere. This game also does a really good job with like light and dark. So your flashlight feels actually useful, and there are dark corners of this world sometimes that things will jump out of. And, with the saga sections, it feels like you're in this Pacific Northwest mystery, and it also kind of has like the air of Silence of the Lambs, one of my favorite, it's not even like a horror movie, but like just one of my favorite unsettling movies. It just has something to it atmospherically. And I think Alan Wake 2 really keeps a lot of that. But then it also goes full Remedy and goes nuts with Alan Wake's sections where he's in this kind of noir horror New York that is just steeped in insane detail. Garbage everywhere, graffiti everywhere, neon lights, fog, rain. It just really checks all my boxes personally for like the stuff I come to with these games. But it's also just overall very tense. It's not the scariest game in the world, but it's got a lot of zany, crazy moments and some moments where you'll feel cornered and frustrated and only have like 5 bullets left. And that's what I like from these types of games. I'm glad Alan Wake was like one thing and they took Alan Wake 2 and they were like, nah, just make it survival horror, make it like Resident Evil 2, 3 remake. I think that is perfect for this because even though I'm reductive and I'm saying it's like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 remake, I just mean that in combat control, resource management wise. Every other aspect of this game is so completely unique. It's unlike anything that you've probably ever played. I know Remedy games are kind of an acquired taste. Like one of my closest friends texted me and he was like, I didn't like Control at all. Like the vibe, everything. Am I going to like Alan Wake 2? And I was like, I don't know, man. Probably not. But like, if you're at least kind of down with Remedy stuff, Alan Wake 2 is awesome. And you don't totally need to play the first game to get into this one. It does a really good job of keeping you up to speed. Like you maybe like go watch a YouTube video kind of summing up like Control and the original Alan Wake. That'll definitely help. But again, like it does a decent enough job of stringing you along. And there's so much weird shit going on in the game that it might make you curious to kind of dive into their other games if you haven't played them. But from like a pure horror thing, it's really about the vibes, the feels, the tension, not necessarily the moment to moment scares. The game does rely on jump scares a lot, which they are effective, they do work, but I think they're a little overused. But otherwise, if you're just trying to like live in a horror world, like a weird, creepy, spooky detective type game, I highly recommend it. I'm going to be talking about it a lot more in another video, like I said. I also think, and like no spoilers, but I think I might be talking about this more towards like Game of the Year time. I like it that much, but there's still more games to release, so we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I do have a lot to cover, but I also do want to highlight in my previous videos in the last couple of years, I've talked about like my go-tos, the stuff I kind of always go to every Halloween, specifically movie wise. Like I'm always doing the Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow. To me, that is like an absolute go-to. I'm going to talk more about movies in a little bit, but like in terms of like spooky games and stuff, it's always like Resident Evil, like the original. But the games like The Darkness, Condemned, Until Dawn, games that really just give me good horror movie feelings, but in video game form. Not to mention weird, creepier, gross stuff like Legacy of Kain, Blood Omen, one of my favorites. I've mentioned Alan Wake in the past. I've mentioned the Fable games just for like the fall feeling, even Night in the Woods for that. Definitely scratches some of those itches. One thing I did jump into this year to play in terms of games, it wasn't a lot, to be honest. It was Alan Wake 2, but also PT. Now, PT, as you probably know, like you can't actually access. Oh, thanks. Okay. PT you can't really actually access anymore. So to be honest, like I watched a YouTube video of somebody playing through, like I did a no commentary YouTube playthrough just to kind of get that experience again and get that feeling again. And turns out like it still holds up. It wasn't just like a thing of the moment. There was something about just experiencing that in a vacuum when it first came out though, that was so special. Not really knowing anything about it and just downloading it and jumping into it and discovering it. It was really creepy because you didn't know what to expect. The darkness was really good. It's hard to explain PT and why I found it scary. I've spoken to many people who just were like, it's not that scary. Like, what's the big deal? And I think horror is so subjective. Even recent horror movies like Skinamarink. Is that how you say it? Some people think that's the scariest movie in the world. Some people think it's garbage. I think that's how it always goes. The Blair Witch Project came out back in the day. A lot of people thought it was dumb. I thought it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. But playing through or really watching PT, experiencing it again, like with my headphones on and with a good quality video on and the lights off, I was able to get some of that feeling again. And if you have time, I recommend doing it again because PT is cool. It's very stressful. It's very anxiety inducing, but for this season is good. Jumping on over to movies, I'm going to bounce back and forth and stuff because for me, a big part of Halloween is watching old TVs and TV shows, movies and stuff like that. I watched Renfield this year. It was a new-ish horror movie, or horror-esque funny movie, whatever. And I was surprised. Renfield is actually a banger. So as you guys know, I like vampire stuff. I like Dracula stuff, and building a movie around Renfield, but making it kind of like a dumb comedy was a risk. And when I saw the trailer for it, I didn't think it looked that good, other than Nick Cage being Dracula. I actually found it to be a lighthearted good time. If you go into it not expecting too much, and if you can tolerate Awkwafina, it's good. I also really like Nicholas Hoult. I love that guy. I think that guy's going places. But it's just a good, entertaining, fun time. There's a lot of good, over-the-top, stupid gore and action. A lot of it is CG, and this movie desperately needs squibs and real blood. But besides that, you also just have Nicolas Cage doing it up, living his best life. Not only is he Dracula in multiple outfits and situations, but also different levels of makeup and prosthetics and just really hamming it up. And again, it's like a passive thing. Go in it with zero expectations. It was a good time. On the complete opposite direction, I haven't watched it in so long, Cronenberg's The Fly, the one with Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum. And it is still absolutely fantastic. Definitely not something you want to sit someone down and say, hey, let's watch a spooky, gross movie, and then show them that, because it is downright horrific and unsettling. But it's just great in how simple it is and how focused on delivering good, grotesque body horror centered around this tragedy. I love it. The way it just starts with Gina Davis immediately meeting Seth Brundle, right there, and then it goes from there. It just jumps right into it. There's no fluff. There's no filler. It's his experiment and then him falling apart, and it is absolutely awesome. They made a Fly 2, kind of more of a made-for-TV one, and I will never watch that movie again because that one scarred me for life. It kind of does some gross stuff with dogs and animals. I didn't like that at all. But the first one is disgusting and awesome and thought-provoking and heartbreakingly tragic. You feel it. It's nasty. It's nasty in terms of like blood and throw up and guts, but also just nasty in terms of how depressing it feels. Just a good horror Halloween good time. Also this year, I've had on the background on my TV while I've been working a lot and just kind of jumping to it. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. I love just kind of running those every couple of years because there's something about that to me that just speaks to Halloween time. When I was younger, I would always look forward to those, like the music, the Simpsons theme, but like scary. All of that just hits for me. And they also, a lot of them end up being some of the funnier episodes and with some of the most memorable moments, like Homer getting like assembly line fed the donuts, which has like become a meme, to Homer getting like thrust through an interdimensional portal, like trapped like Poltergeist, but then eventually he's in the real world and he's like CGI. It's just good stuff. I also went back, I made it a mission this year to like go back and watch some really old stuff. So I watched 1931's Frankenstein, and like the Boris Karloff one, and what a wild. So believe it or not, I've never seen this, but I love Frankenstein. Weirdly enough, I love the Mary Shelley book so much, and obviously the original Frankenstein movie has had so much prominence in media to this day, influence. It's been aped, it's been parodied beyond comprehension, but I never actually like went back and watched that original movie. Then like I know it wasn't going to be like the book, judging from again how it influenced media and stuff like that. But I was like, what the fuck is this movie? After I watched it, I have tolerance for old movies. Dracula, on the other hand, is I love. That thing is iconic. Bela Lugosi, incredible. Some of the shots of that movie, wow. But on the flip side, Frankenstein just feels like a hokey, goofy bullshit fest. There's some parts of it that are incredibly raw and awesome. Like the father carrying the body of the girl that Frankenstein like dumped in the river. And the creation scene when Henry Frankenstein makes Frankenstein. Great stuff. But then it's got all this weird stuff like the old German guy just like talking and rambling and like, what is going on here? It's goofy again, but it's also just so endearing with how wholesome it's made. It's real sets, interesting stuff on screen, actors doing their best, giving their best shot. But also Boris Karloff, I think, carries a lot of it just from physical acting. The way he throws people around, the way he throws furniture around, it just felt very real and scary, and that works. But then I jumped ahead to Bride of Frankenstein, the direct sequel to this movie. That's in 1935 after like the success of Frankenstein. And you could totally tell this is like a bigger, badder movie. Like you could tell it's got a bigger budget, the sets are bigger, everything's a little better looking. And if you look it up, like it is generally, for most people considered to be the better Frankenstein movie, and I would agree. It has less goofy bullshit in it, other than an annoying old lady. It's actually just a very interesting front to back movie, especially with how it ends. It's got a tragic thing. It does a pretty good job of introducing like Frankenstein's intelligence, and the way it rounds it out at the end with his choice, his sacrifice. I like. It comes sudden. It's very quick, but it still ultimately works. It's a cool movie. Also, I did round out some time to play Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare a little bit. Shout out to Andrew for saying, hey man, you should play that. I did. I jumped in, got a couple hours in. I had tested it out for when they re-released Red Dead Redemption for PS4 just to see if it like worked. But I spent a couple hours in it now, and it's good. It's got that good like, grindhouse, like cheesy, like B-movie horror film type thing to it. And I think that's absolutely what works. You love to see Rockstar when they were doing that crazy weird stuff. Also, not a horror movie really, but I said fuck it and I watched it anyway. Jumanji, I love. Jumanji is one of my favorite movies as a kid. But I do want to talk about the fact that like am I the only person out there? Like I think Jumanji was actually kind of scary. It was a little creepy. It was a little unsettling. And I think it was because first of all, the ominous banging of the drums and having this thing cursed like that people just hate, they need to get rid of, they bury it, and it just keeps getting unearthed, is very creepy. But also really everything about Jumanji, I don't know, it just creeps me out. The fact that a young boy can be sucked into the game and be trapped in a jungle for years and years and years until he emerges as a man like who's 40 years old. Man, something about that movie, and I know I'm going on a tangent now, I'm sorry, but just the concept, the way they describe the jungle, the way the jungle felt, you never see it. You see the creatures come from it. You hear about Alan Parrish living in it. It doesn't sound like a jungle. It sounds like a jungle, like it's like a horrifying jungle where it's always nighttime, everything is out to kill you, and it's terrifying. And I really like that. Was Robin Williams really like the best choice to like carry that, like as a man who lived in a jungle forever and then reemerges? I don't know, but I think he does have that boyish charm to him that kind of works as the idea of somebody who kind of their life got cut short as a teenager and then they lived in the jungle forever. Also, though, the animals in this movie are terrifying. There's not one animal really in the movie that shows up that's like, hey, hi, cute. Everything is scary and like, nah, and the monkeys are like, nah. The crocodile's like, nah. Even like the bird, like the pelicans are like, nah. Like everything, every animal, everything that comes out of Jumanji is like threatening and scary. And it works. And the movie also just hits something I talk about in these Halloween videos, the fall vibe. That town, that New England town, is just like filled with good fall feeling, the trees, the main street, the shop, everything. So it kind of low key checks all the boxes for a good like fall, autumn, Halloween time movie. Not to mention the fact like watching it back as an adult with like Van Pelt and the hunter and him being Alan Parrish's dad, both the same actor. Like there's definitely some like some parental like daddy issues going on here in this movie. I like that subtext a lot. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up though. I usually have more games to talk about for these years, but it's been so busy in the review season. Alan Wake really took up most of the focus. But if you sat around this far, you got this far listening to me talk about Jumanji, not even technically a Halloween movie, thank you for being here. Thank you for humoring me. Thank you for hearing me out. I hope maybe you rewatch the original Jumanji and go, damn, what a picture. The original book was great too, or it's not really it's like a children's book, but it was also a banger. And then I even like the one with The Rock, you know, different strokes for different folks. But anyway, I've talked about Jumanji too long in a Halloween video. So let me know what you think about this stuff. I love when you guys share in the comments, like, you know, your go-to movies you watch every year or your games you try and play every year. Hit me up with those because I'm always looking for more to add to my ever-growing list. But again, thank you for watching. I had a good time talking today with this stuff. Still got a couple more games for this year to round it out, so I'll see you in videos soon. But if you like this video, you like what I'm doing here, I'm just talking about stuff I love, clicking a like button helps. You know, I'm just yapping here. But thank you guys. I'm Jake Baldino. Have a great one. Be safe. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me. Can I just get a little Chris Redfield?
Chris Redfield.